In this episode of the Reclaimed podcast, Amy Puzey sits down with elite marathoner Rebecca Schmitt, who's fresh off a blazing 1 hour, 10-minute half marathon and an Olympic trials qualifying time. They talk about what's really changed in Rebecca's training over the past year and how Goodphyte helps her actually absorb the nutrients and the whole foods she's already eating.
Hey, Rebecca, how are you?
Hey, good. How are you both?
Good. Thank you so much for joining me on Reclaimed. We're excited to have you back. I know we did an interview with you before, but there have been some pretty big updates since then, and you've had some amazing races since then. So I'd love to hear, just kind of since we last talked, can you tell us about some of the races you've done and some of the amazing times that or some of your amazing performances? And
Yeah.
I know, you don't brag about yourself, but I'm going to try to get you to brag about yourself today.
Sounds good. Yeah, thank you. So the last time we talked was after CIM 2025, where I ran a Olympic trials qualifiers. I ran a 2:28 marathon. Since then, I have had a few smaller races. So I ran 10K at Mesa. I ran the Indy Mini, which is a half marathon in Indianapolis. It's a really fun race. You get to run on the Indianapolis Speedway. And I ran a 1:10:10 half marathon there. And had been really training the greater part of this year for that race at May. So
110, just for anyone who isn't a runner, 110 is insanely fast. Like, your pace per mile for that is what?
about 5:20. Yeah.
So incredible.
Yeah, thank you.
And that was a 2-minute PR for you, is that correct? A personal record?
It actually, so it was probably about that if you do an altitude conversion from my high altitude half marathon races, but I actually haven't ever, the only other half marathon that I ran at sea level, I DNF'd. So I was a little hesitant to run the half marathon again because I just had a bad experience a little over a year ago, and really excited with how this one went.
Well, amazing. I'm sure that felt, I think you set a course record as well, if I remember correctly. So
yeah,
incredible. Well, I know you've been taking Goodphyte for about a year now, I think. Does that sound right to you? I think it's about a year.
Yeah.
And so I have some questions just to see kind of, your impressions of it. We want to try to help other runners understand what has worked for you, and then what might work for them. Or runners, anything from, a casual runner all the way up to elite athletes that are training at your level and running hundreds of kilometers a week. I'm not sure what your current training load is at, but it's quite high, I'm sure. So I'll jump into the questions. When you're in a heavy training block, what are the signs that you're absorbing training well versus just accumulating fatigue?
So I think a key indicator for me is ability to hit paces during workouts. So in times where maybe my mileage has been too high, or I'm not sleeping enough, I'm not getting enough nutrition, it will be difficult for me to come off of even easy miles throughout the week, workouts and easy miles, and hit my next workout and hit all my paces. You'll start to feel like you're trying to hit your paces and maybe dwindling by the end of a workout. Maybe you're not even able to do it by the end of a workout. So that's when you know you're not fully recovered. And then that can add up over time and end up in injury, or just, it's not like you're out of shape, but you're running a lot more poorly than you should be. So.
Right. And do you feel like, since you started taking Goodphyte, do you notice any benefit to recovery, or that you recover a little bit better because you're absorbing more? Or do you feel like it's, I realize training fluctuates throughout the year, but
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things. I think the Goodphyte definitely helps. My energy levels have been good. Um, I also have not been training at quite the volume I was training at previously. I had tried the sort of 100 miles a week thing and think that I do a little bit better. I mean, for a marathon, mileage does really matter. I still, would peak at high 90s for the marathon, but a combination of like appropriate volume on easy days, hitting those key workouts, high intensity workouts, and then also nutrition, sleep, and I do think Goodphyte has a role there as far as energy and ability to recover.
Okay. So you notice, what would you say if you were to rate your energy on a scale of 1 to 10? Do you feel like there's been a shift since you started taking Goodphyte?
Yeah, I would say so it's hard to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10 because it fluctuates throughout the running week quite a bit. So I still feel if I have a very high intensity workout, like on this Tuesday, I had like 8 by 1 mile at 5:28 to 5:30 pace. And that's at altitude, and then like 400s at like 76 to 70. And I felt pretty tired after that workout just throughout the day because it was just high intensity, but I consider that a normal level of fatigue. You want to be able to come back the next day for an easy run and not feel like you're dragging. And I would say my energy levels are very good in that regard. If that kind of makes sense, like it's totally normal to feel some level of fatigue after a challenging workout, but like your body should be able to recover and repair itself after a good night's sleep, all the nutrition you need. And I was able to come off the next morning and I ran like an easy 8 miles and I felt fine. So I would consider that like a success as far as energy levels go.
Okay. Amazing.
Yeah.
And so I guess my next question is you've kind of answered that. Were you hitting paces more consistently, recovering between intervals better, feeling fresher at the end of workouts? I guess, yeah, you sort of have just answered that, but over the past
Yeah.
year, would you say that's been a consistent change or?
Yeah, I definitely have been hitting my workout paces over the past year. Absolutely. Yeah. So
Okay.
that's been really good. As runners, we always have a few workouts that don't go as planned, and then you have a few that feel like better than you expected. But over the past year, I think that my workouts have been consistent.
Okay, good. And no injuries in the past year. You're not dealing with any stress fractures or anything niggly like that.
Yeah, that's actually one thing that we were talking about, like, well, what have you really noticed as a change? And that is one thing that has been a big change. So I did have a little bit of a shin issue, like a year ago, a little more than a year ago, where it was like a stress reaction. But I do not think since then, I don't think I've had a single like issue as far as like, stress reaction, stress fracture, tendon issues at all over the past year. So that's pretty amazing, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I've had to take
That's
a
great. And
single like day or week off because of something like that.
wow.
Yeah.
And that would be different than starting Goodphyte.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. I mean, yeah, if you're absorbing more, you know that it's going to be you're absorbing more amino acids, all the micronutrients, and you're supporting the tendons and the muscles and the collagen and all of that. So that's great to hear because we know stress fractures are just so common for elites. And bone strength and bone health is really important. So if you're absorbing more magnesium and calcium, then
Right.
hopefully your bones are a lot stronger and can just withstand more of that.
Right.
And now in terms of iron or ferritin levels, blood work, have you done any blood work that has shown any changes
Still
there?
have not done blood work, and I think I'm way overdue for blood work. So still on my to-do list. Yeah.
Okay. We'll keep us
The
posted
only
on that.
indicator that I have is that my energy levels are good. So
Right.
yeah, just not, I haven't prioritized going to get blood work done, but I really should. So yeah.
You're really busy. You're working full time and training at like 4 a.m. and
Yeah, super
so
busy.
yeah,
Have
it's
been dealing with like a couple other, like other higher priority medical needs. So I just haven't gotten like blood work done specifically for that, but I need to at some point this year. Really, I'm due for blood work. So yeah.
okay. Um, let's see. Can you think of a specific workout where you expected to feel wrecked the next day but didn't? Like one that was just like you were crushed after and you should have taken 2 or 3 days to recover and then you noticed that you felt okay the next day?
Yeah. I mean, I can think of so many over the course of the past year. Um, I did a recent like tempo run because I'm also looking ahead to the marathon later this fall, marathon seasons in the fall, and was sort of thinking that the 6 mile tempo that I did at a more marathon effort felt a lot easier than it would have, a year or two ago. And I think more than anything, that's like been consistency with training and like the ability to feel healthy for so long. And to be able to put out consistent workouts every week for um, over a year now. So yeah, looking at that and looking at where I was like a year or two ago, it's fun to see the progress where that pace actually feels a lot easier to me now than it used to.
Good. So
Yeah,
just kind of overall resilience, like
yeah,
you're not getting yeah. Okay.
right.
Um, Distance runners are notorious for gut issues. How important is gut health to performance at your level and have you noticed any changes with gut health with Goodphyte?
Yeah, so um this is, I mean, it's sort of an awkward subject, but as you know, like before a race, the porta-potty lines are long for distance runners. It's something that a lot of distance runners struggle with, even if it's just like nerves before a race. The main takeaway for me is so a little over a year ago, I was struggling with like a lot of like bloating, gas, needing to stop workouts to use the restroom. And that's all been a lot more regular. So that's my main takeaway there is that a lot of those issues are gone. And I do attribute that to
Amazing.
Goodphyte. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
nothing like before I started Goodphyte, there were a few marathons where I spent a few minutes in a porta potty, and that is not something you
Yeah.
want to be doing and
No.
in a really important race.
It's such a
Never
common
fun to even just
experience for distance runners. It really
yeah.
is. Yeah.
Well, and also like, in ultra running, you just hear so often people that are vomiting in their races and they just can't keep their food in, right? So,
Right.
if you
Right.
help with if it can help with absorption and it's not sitting in your gut because all the blood's going to your muscles instead of to digestion, and you're actually
Right.
able to digest some of the nutrients. Hope is that it would help in those longer races as well. So,
Right.
um, okay. And then for race day digestion, fueling, bloating, anything like that, do you use Goodphyte on race day as well? Or like is it just a consistent you use it every day, or do you change anything up around hard days or timing or races or
Yeah, I eat it with my meal, so I wouldn't have it like right before a race because I often on race day I actually often don't eat before even like even before a marathon. I'll just do my gels during the run, but yeah, it really helps with so I do eat a lot of foods that are high in phytic acid, which is, you know, staple of a healthy diet. And so I do pair like breakfast and lunch with Goodphyte. And so yeah, I think it's the consistency over time that's really helped me feel good on race day.
yeah, got it. And then if another elite runner asked you what you've actually noticed with Goodphyte, just real world experience, if you were telling somebody about it, what is the takeaway, or what do you think what would you tell them?
Yeah. So I guess just one more thought about race day. I wanted to mention that I did not get sick after this last half marathon. So I get sick after almost every race. I think part of that is a combination of, you're going all out, you're giving it your all, your immune system is totally compromised, you're traveling, you're on a plane coming home, you're maybe eating a ton of sugar after the race, celebrating. And I actually didn't get sick after this last half marathon, which was very unique. Maybe because
Amazing.
it frees up zinc. So
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of cool. And then as far as what I would tell oh yeah, go ahead.
No, sorry, I was just gonna, when you say sick, do you mean like you would get a cold kind of thing, or just be really run down, or flu, like vomiting, or is it both, or?
Cold. Yeah, very run down and a cold. I mean, I've had races where I'll be, knocked out for a week with a cold. And it's a pretty regular experience for me the week or two after a race to get sick. And I actually didn't get sick this past round, which was great.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you put your body through so much, and you're putting it all out there. You're super depleted.
Right. Super depleted.
And sorry,
Sorry, what's that?
No, sorry, I cut you off. You were going to tell us what you were going to tell an elite.
Oh yeah. So what would I tell another elite runner? I mean, for me, I have noticed benefits, right? So in taking Goodphyte, I haven't had any bone issues, stress fractures. My immunity's been better. My energy levels have been better. And that makes a lot of sense with what it's doing, right? You're able to free up calcium and zinc and iron so that you can actually use the micronutrients in your food that you're eating. So I think for another elite distance runner, we know that ultimately it comes down to our training, but Goodphyte's such a great tool to enable you to be ready every day, to put in the work. And what I love about Goodphyte is that it's not just another supplement that you're adding to the top of your supplement list. It's enabling you to absorb the nutrients in healthy whole foods. And that's really what I like about it as a supplement.
Well, and yeah, if you're eating high phytic acid foods and then pairing it with Goodphyte, that's perfect, right? Because those high phytic acid foods are incredibly nutritious and good for you, as long as you can access the nutrients in them and actually break it down so it's not binding to your micronutrients. So you get all the amino acids and all the proteins and all the phosphate and all of it when you pair it. So it makes runners work so hard at their diets. I think for the most part, they're so careful, and it just gives you that much more out of your diet, basically. So yeah, that's really wonderful.
Yeah. And
is there anything else you want to?
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I've got such a bad delay.
There's a little lag. I think my phone might be like overheating or something. What were you saying?
I was just going to ask if there was anything else you wanted to tell us, but go ahead.
Gosh. So I do have a friend who has been trying Goodphyte, and she recently ran like a 1:15 something half marathon, and then her very first marathon ever that she just ran like a 2:42. So that's pretty amazing. That's a good testament to, she's a really excellent runner, but I think that, she was able to perform really well on it. So that's just another data point from somebody else who has been trying it.
That's so great. Well, thanks for
Yeah.
sharing it.
Yeah.
And then so just for everybody, they're going to ask like, what do you eat for breakfast that you pair it with? What do you eat for lunch? Can you give us kind of, the timing of it during your day? I think you said one at breakfast, one at lunch.
Yeah.
But what would be kind of a typical breakfast and lunch for you?
Yeah, and why two a day? I actually, this might sound kind of weird, but I actually am not a big dinner person. I eat pretty much between 8 and like 3 or 4 every day. I do not like going to bed with like full stomach. So I eat almost constantly between 8 and 4. But for breakfast, I'm a really big oatmeal person, so I'll do oatmeal with some protein and a banana. I eat a ton of fruit, yogurt, and then lunch pretty much every day. I'll do a salad with some cottage cheese, nuts, and croutons. And yeah, so I do eat a lot of, I eat beans and a lot of veggies and yeah, a lot of high phytic acid foods. So yeah, I definitely try to pair Goodphyte with those meals.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think that's all I have for questions for you, Goodphyte related. But tell us what you've got planned kind of over the summer for races, and then when is your next marathon in the fall?
Yeah, so I have the half marathon at Grandma's coming up this not this weekend, but the next is on the 20th. So that's the Garry Bjorklund half marathon. And then I have likely Berlin in September. So the Berlin Marathon. That's going to be a big one.
Okay. And
yeah.
what are what are your time goals for those two races?
For Grandma's, it sort of depends on how I feel on the day. I'm coming off of, just a little over a month ago, I ran the 110. So I think that around that time is definitely possible and likely as long as it's a good day. I would love to break 70 minutes in the half marathon, so run like a 109 something. But I think that, high 109 to like a 70 something I'd be really happy with. And then for Berlin, I would love to run like a 226 or 227. So we'll see. Yeah.
So amazing.
Thanks.
So amazing. Yeah. And you're qualified for the trials, right? Is that that's next? Is that next fall? Yeah. Okay.
So it's 2028 in March, and they actually just picked the city. It'll be in St. Louis. Yeah.
Okay.
In St. Louis.
So you've got some time to recover.
Yeah, it's like almost exactly 4 months before the marathon at the 2028 Olympics. So, yeah, not a ton of recovery time between those two for the top 3 women that make it, but I guess just enough. Yeah.
Yeah. So. Well, we're going to be cheering for you. I love following your journeys and your time with the dogs, and I know you're balancing a lot. So I think today was supposed to be a day off for you, and you're juggling this in the middle of work, and so thank you for taking time to speak with us today. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, as always. Appreciate it, and it's good to see you. And
well, thanks again for your time, Rebecca. I really appreciate it, and good luck with all the training, and I hope you have a really good summer, and we'll be cheering for you through Grandma's and then into Berlin in the fall.
Thank you so much, as always, Amy. Always good to talk with you.
Thanks very much for watching all the way to the end. If you like this content, we have 2 other recommendations. And don't forget to subscribe and like the video. And if you have some other friends and acquaintances that you think might benefit from the information, please share it with them.